Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay. And on today's episode, I have scoured the internet for some of the best potential trades out there for Erik Karlsson and Timo Meier. So we're going to look at some of these different trade options and try to figure out which is the best package. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin, RIP, and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch this on YouTube as well. And it's in the name Locked On Sharks, your team every day. And the Sharks lost to the Penguins 3-1. And instead of doing a normal game recap where we're like, oh man, maybe if this had happened differently, the Sharks would have won. Let's talk about what you guys really want. I actually put out a poll, see what you guys wanted. 90% of you guys said that you would rather just listen to a trade discussion episode. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm trying to give the people what they want. But before we continue, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So I scoured the internet. By scoured, I Googled. I wasn't looking for like Billy Bob's, blog on his trades. I went to like legitimate trade, So I went and I saw the trades so you can go see exactly where they're coming from. So we have, these are legitimate people. I didn't come up with these trades, so don't call me an idiot in the comments and stuff. I'm just going through these trades and giving my opinions on them and kind of giving you guys some information on some of these players and what to kind of expect back in these proposed trades. So very good YouTube episode today. I made a lot of graphics and stuff like that for this one. So so let's get into the trades. We'll start with Erik Karlsson, which is, again, I don't see how an Erik Karlsson trade happens just because I think there's too many hurdles, not Tomasz hurdles. There's too many factors to overcome, especially with the movement clause, how big his salary is, et cetera, et cetera. This trade was proposed by Jason Gregor. That is Noah Gregor's relative. One of the Oilers, I forget. But anyway, well-known publication. It's not, not like, again, I'm not just pulling out Billy Bob's blog and why the Sharks should trade Timo Meier for a 7th-round pick type of thing. But this was, and again, he had a couple different ones. I picked kind of the one I liked the most usually with all of them, or like kind of the one I thought was the most realistic, but this is the one I kind of like the most. So the San Jose Sharks would acquire 2023 first-round pick, defenseman Tyson Barrie, defenseman Evan Bouchard, and then either Kyle Yamamoto or Jesse Puljujarvi. And then the Oilers would acquire Erik Karlsson and forward Steven Lorentz. And the Sharks would retain 40% of Karlsson's salary. That's $4.6 million for the next 4 years after this season. So let's dig into what the Sharks will be getting first. Tyson Barrie, he'll be 30. He's 31-year-old defenseman. He has 2 years left at $4.5 million. He's kind of the big piece, especially for the Oilers, who are very cap-strapped to try to make this move happen. 54 games this year. He's got 7 goals, 28 assists, 19 minutes and 15 seconds of average time on ice, and Corsi for 49.28. Barrie, I mean, the Sharks could kind of, I would assume if they get Barrie, they would probably hang on to him this year, and then he would be a very valuable trade asset in next year's trade deadline type of situation, or you could turn around and flip him this year. But I would assume he would be kind of a short-term here, hold down the fort, and then we'll trade you next or neither in the off season when you just have 1 year left, or hang on to him going into next year, trade him at the trade deadline type of situation. But guy who plays a little under defensive second to pairing defensive minutes. Solid numbers, not very great on the shorthand. Solid offensive numbers for him. Don't have him play any PK, but he will help provide offense for you. And if to be, kind of take that for the Sharks, he would be kind of that our right side defenseman one. He would run the power play. At least that way you're not just letting Matt Benning type of guy run the power play for you. So I think he'd be a useful piece for the Sharks that they could turn around and flip next offseason and get some assets for him, or basically flip him at any time, especially with after this season, you'll have 1 year left. So even if the offseason of a team wants to try to add him, the Sharks could definitely, turn around and trade him as well. So Evan Bouchard, I think this is kind of the main centerpiece that you're kind of focusing. This is the one thing you're kind of looking, other than the first round pick, of course. This is the thing that you're looking to. So Evan Bouchard is 23-year-old defenseman. He has 1 year left on his ELC at $865,000. Of course, that makes him an RFA. All that fun, so he still have his rights. 6'3", 394 pounds. He's played 54 games this year. 3 goals, 17 assists, 1748 time on ice. Corsi for 56.66. That is what you like to see. I think his upside is a kind of second pairing defenseman who can actually also play defense for you. So again, he kind of plays right around the second pairing minutes for the Oilers right now. Very good offense and very good defensive numbers. So you're hoping that he can continue to grow into those and be, you're hoping like Kent, Bouchard, and Havlin would kind of be your defenseman of the future type of situation. So I think he's kind of the centerpiece of it. You're hoping that you get a guy who can continue to develop. So, and then you would get your choice between Kailer Yamamoto or Jesse Puljujarvi. I'll lay out the case for each one. Yamamoto, a little bit, I think he's a little bit younger. So he's 24. Puljujarvi is actually, they're about 24. Sorry, excuse me. Puljujarvi, I think, is just in the doghouse for everybody. But we'll start with Yamamoto. Currently on LTIR, but it sounds like he should be getting back here any minute. He has 2 years left at $3.1 million AAV. So again, you're trying to balance out that kind of about $7 million contract that you're trading for the Oilers for Erik Karlsson. Yamamoto plus, whoever Tyson Barrie, that's basically $7 million right there. So. But anyway, 31 games this year, 4 goals, 8 assists, average time on ice, 1642, 51.7 Corsi 4, a little bit on the smaller side, 5'8", 153 pounds. Don't love that, but I don't care if you're good. And Yamamoto, he plays usually top line minutes with Connor McDavid, which is going to help. Doesn't play much on the power play. Again, when you have Connor McDavid. But plays on the penalty kill. He's actually solid defensively for someone who gets, and his offense maybe isn't where you would expect him, especially I think again playing with Connor McDavid. So Yamamoto, though, I mean, you still have 2 year, so you have this year and next year with him. Jesse Puljujarvi is on the last year of his $3 million deal, his RFA, so you do own his rights. There's talk of Puljujarvi being waived right now to make room for Yamamoto. So I think Puljujarvi has very much fallen out of many, many Oilers fans, and as well as with the Oilers themselves, kind of fallen out of favor with them. 51 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 1235 time on ice, Corsi for 52.05% at 515. Defense, great. 88 percentile. Offense, absolutely horrible. And I don't know, might be one of those things where maybe just a fresh situation with him. He's easily fallen out of favor. So with the Oilers, and maybe you take a swing on him. Hopefully you get him in a new situation. Put him around some other people, and maybe you can see to find his game. He's very good at protecting the puck, but there's not really much else there. I think I would probably lean Yamamoto just because, again, Puljujarvi, you might be able to just grab him for free if you really like him. Yamamoto, and then you also have an extra year. So, again, you can flip him next year for something, et cetera, et cetera. Like you're kind of you're giving yourself a little stockpile of assets where you can, hey, this guy's working out for us. Great. Cool. We can hang on to him, give him a kind of a medium-term deal, 3-4 years if he works out for you over the next year and a half. Or if he doesn't really work out for you, doesn't fit in, maybe he's holding someone else down, you can flip him next year and actually get like a real asset instead of Puljujarvi, who I think he might be on the waiver wire here at some point soon. So before we continue, get into some of the Timo Meier trades, do want to let you guys know about our friends over, of course, at FanDuel. Get that going. I know football season's over, which makes me sad, but there's still plenty to bet on this time of year, especially with the NBA season. We've passed the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, threes drained. I really like the 2x3, 2 3-pointer score in the first 3 minutes. That's just like a really fun, quick bet right there. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, let's dive back into the Timo trade. So I went 3 trades. So we'll start with Timo Meier getting traded to the Jets. This was on The Athletic from Murat Ataz. I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name. Corey Masaic. They had a bunch of them. This was the one that kind of the compromise of them. Again, I don't want to pull all of them. They're Athletics paid subscription. Please give Corey your money. He does a great job with it. So I pulled one that this was kind of their compromise. So Sharks acquire a 2023 first-round pick, defenseman Dylan Sandberg, forward Rickard McGroarty, and the Jets acquire forward Timo Meier. Again, all the first-round picks, you assume you're probably going to be with Timo Meier. All these are probably going to be 20 to 32. You're kind of expecting that type of range for a team that acquires Timo Meier. That's probably what you're getting. So, all right, let's start with Dylan Sandberg. Defenseman, 1 year left on his ELC at $925,000. So RFA, of course. You control his rights for a while, all that fun stuff. 6'3", 190 pounds. He's played 40 games this year, has 2 goals, 6 assists, 15.26 average time on ice, and 54.23% Corsi. Looking at his numbers, so plays third pairing defense of minutes for the Jets. Left-handed shot. Offense, okay-ish, but defense is solid. And hopefully that's one of those things where the offense will continue to grow with him as he continues to develop. Has played 0, basically. He's played 4 minutes of power play this year, but has played a lot of shorthanded and is good at that. So Dylan Sandberg, I think he's a guy who can play in the NHL for you right now. I know the Sharks have a plethora of left-handed defensemen, but they don't have any young guys who can play in the NHL right now that you can kind of hope that can to continue to develop. So, of course, with the Jets, there's, big bad Brad Lambert, who I really like. That was one of their trade proposals, was getting Brad Lambert back. I would go listen to my Brad Lambert podcast before the draft. I'm a huge Brad Lambert fan, and if the Sharks can get Brad Lambert back, I think you really, really, really have to think hard about that. But we went with Erik Karlsson. He was the 14th overall pick in the last year's draft. Ford, University of Michigan. Of course, he's unsigned since he's playing at the University of Michigan. Just a reminder, any of the NCAA kids, you cannot sign your ELC while you're playing in college. You have to, once you sign your ELC, your first contract, you are not allowed to play in college anymore. So you wonder, though, if those rules will eventually start to change here, especially what you see in football with the NIL. But that is for a different day. 6'1", 205 pounds, plays on this mighty Michigan team. 20 games, has 10 goals, 13 assists. Having himself a very, very fine freshman season with Michigan. So pulled up our old friend Byron Bader's kind of draft profiles and looked at where, how they their kind of development. So with him, Erik Karlsson, he's probably going to be middle six type of guy. NHL probability 62%, star probability. So star is in his model for a forward. A star is a 0.7 career games point procedure. So he would his average would be 0.7, right? Points per game. So Karlsson, though, having a great, really had a nice season last year. We, definitely profiled him, was remembered being very, very favorable on talking about him. And I think he would be a really nice piece that you hope to, kind of grow into, especially if you look at, I think he's going to be a very hit or miss type of guy. Gabriel Landeskog, Nikolai Ehlers as potential comps. I will happily take one of those guys, but boom. So that's the Jets one. The Hurricanes one. This was proposed by Frank Cervalli, the Daily Faceoff. So proposed trade, the Sharks would trade with the Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes have kind of been one of those teams that keep an eye out, especially with the Max Pacioretty news of him re-tearing his Achilles. So Sharks would get a 2023 first-round pick, 2024 second-round pick. So you get 2 picks there. Defensive prospect Scott Morrow, and forward prospect Jack Drury. Drury's played a little bit in the NHL, mostly in the AHL this year. And then the Sharks would get, of course, Timo Meier. Getting the 2 picks would be really nice. Again, I know this year's pick. Again, the Hurricanes, though, that one is probably going to be if the Hurricanes get Timo Meier, you're probably picking 28, 29, 30, 31, 30. It's you're picking one of the last couple picks there. But Scott Morrow, we'll start with him. Defenseman, plays for UMass, 6'2", 194 pounds, 28 games played, 6 goals, 18 assists this year. He's really kind of helped himself in his development. Second round pick back in 2021. I think his original comps are kind of not that great, but you can kind of see he's working himself, and the Hurricanes are really, really good at drafting. They draft guys, and they usually tend to work out. So 20 percentile to become a star for defenseman. That's a 0.45 career points per game. 51 percentile to be an NHLer. So I think he's going to continue to develop in the NHL, especially coming from high school and then going into college. I think he's going to expected to be back again next year in the NCAA, and then you kind of see where he is after that. So And then Jack Drury, forward, 2 years left on his ELC at 925,000, 6 foot, 181 pounds in the AHL for the Chicago Wolves this year. He's played 25 games, has 6 goals, 9 assists. And he is kind of going to, I think he's going to be kind of a middle six type of guy. So his star probability, he was a second round pick, 42, second round role in 2018. Played NCAA, like he was in college for a couple of years. Then he went to SHL during the COVID stuff, right? 17%. Then he's dropped down to 5% now in his after his D+3 draft +3 year. Going to be an NHL type of player, but again, nothing where you're like, he's kind of another B prospect. So with this one, you're not really getting that like A guy. You're getting the picks, and you're hoping that maybe you either package this up or you're able to kind of find a guy type of thing. So this one's a little worrisome. All right. Before we get into the Devils one, which you guys can already see here, do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at who are we talking about? Built Bar. Sorry, good friends at Built Bar. They make delicious snacks. So if you're looking for a delicious treat and you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. I know we got through the holidays. Now it's time to eat a little healthier, but you want something that actually tastes good when you're eating it. That's where Built Bar comes in. Each bar is covered in 100% real chocolate. It's right, real chocolate. And great thing about them, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And if you're like me and you hate waiting for mail to come, now Built Bar makes it super easy for you. Swing by Walmart, you can get a box. They have 4-bar boxes of cookies and cream, double chocolate or coconut puffs, or stop by Sam's Club if you have a Sam's Club membership. Grab a 13-bar box of their delicious hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. Or if you like to peruse through a huge selection, check out built.com. I like they have a box with a bunch of different flavors so you can try, figure out which one is your favorite. So either go to Walmart, Sam's Club, or built.com to get yourself a Built Bar today. Okay. Last one. So the Devils one. So there was a bunch of them. I went again. These trades were proposed by Shang Peng on his San Jose Hockey Now. It was part of his paid subscription. So I picked one. He had a few of them. This was a scat one that he, of course, talks to executives. Shang is very much in the loop with people, all that fun stuff. So this is the one I picked. This is also the one the executive said would probably be kind of the most likely. So 2023 first round pick from the Devils. I think it would be like a top 2 protected type of thing. Devils are probably making the playoffs, especially if they add. I know Jack Hughes is out right now, but if they get Timo Meier, they're probably making the playoffs. And then so this pick, though, is probably, I don't picture the Devils going as far. So maybe if the Devils are a first round exit, then you're picking 17, 18, like you're picking late teens, early 20s. You kind of feel a little bit better about it. So put yourself in a good position there. But you still lose Timo Meier. Then we get Shakir Mukhamadullin. I tried. Defensive prospect who plays in the KHL. Then forward Alexander Holtz, kind of bouncing between the AHL and NHL right now. He's kind of that tweener status. And the Devils would get Timo Meier. Shakir Mukhamadullin, again, I tried. Defenseman, 3 years. So he still has the full 3 years left on his ELC. He has signed it, but his contract does not, or I think this year it'll actually start kicking in. He is expected to be playing in Russia this season. And then I think it's through 24-25 for him. So he might be in Russia for a little bit, but that's one of those things where you hope that when he comes over, kind of like when we talked about yesterday's prospect, Matvey but Michkov. Why did I screw that? Anyway, we talked about Michkov. You're expecting him to come over and kind of be just about ready to go type of thing. So, got his slide no longer. He doesn't have the slide anymore, especially because he's a 2020 draft pick. But I believe his contract he's still in Russia for a couple years over there. So that's kind of, 6 foot 4, 190 pounds, 62 games over in Russia this year. Has played 5 goals, 18 assists. His 2020 first round pick, I think he was kind of considered a little bit of a reach if I remember correctly during this draft. But again, with the 2020 draft, you had no idea what's going on, especially with everything. You guys remember 2020. So not the best names when it comes to the comps and stuff. Average producer, developers, et cetera. Vince Dunn is a comp. Okay. Like fringe star type of guy. So star probabilities, he's currently at like 5% star probability, 40% to make the NHL. So we'll see. And then of course, Alexander Holtz, I think I guess he'd be kind of the name, right? So he's a player does have his skating issues, right? That's kind of his big knock right now. So 19 games this year for the Devils. He does have 3 goals, 1 assist. He's played 10 minutes, 16 seconds time on ice, and 50% Corsi 4. He's 6 foot 390 pounds. Still has 3 years. Well, after this year, 2 years left on his ELC. Hasn't really generated much because he just hasn't been on the ice enough for the Devils. So I think getting him in San Jose, he still waivers. You can send him down to the AHL and let him go play with the Barracuda. And then you hope next year, at least that's what I would do. Go send him down with the Barracuda. Go play with your buddy, William Eklund. Go play with Thomas. Go meet Thomas Bordelot for a little while. And then we'll see you in Sharks. We'll see you in camp next year. Here's a skating coach. Please go hang out with him all summer long type of thing. So, kind of circling back through all of them. I still don't think Erik Karlsson gets traded. Like I said at the top, I think it's too many hoops to go through right now. There's too much stuff going on. But if you're going to trade Erik Karlsson, the 40% retained is a lot. And it does kind of hamper your moves that you can do in the future. But if you're wanting to strike while the iron's hot, getting Evan Bouchard back is a pretty solid piece. And then you're going to have another first round pick. You can kind of go from there. You can use some of those picks, those players that you're getting back to generate future assets as well, right? If you get a Yamamoto, maybe you flip him. If you get a Tyson Barrie, who I think, of course, NHL GMs are going to love, they love them guys like Tyson Barrie. Getting a guy like that where, again, you can flip him for future assets type of things. So let him kind of come down in San Jose and do some stuff for a little bit and then turn around and flip him at next year's trade deadline. As for the 3 Timo Meier trades, I would still try really hard to keep Timo Meier, but I don't think Timo Meier is going to stay. So I think if you grab Holtz and you hope that maybe change of scenery, getting back with his buddy William Eklund, you can work on his skating and improve that. And then you're going to have a top 5 pick in this draft and hopefully kind of, maybe the Devils flame out in the first round of the playoffs. A bunch of young guys getting that first taste of playoff experience. We see it all the time, right? Guys get into the playoffs and it's just a different game in the playoffs. And maybe you're getting a pick 20 in this year's draft, which, after talking a lot of some of the guys, like pick 20 is going to feel really, really good. You're going to have a chance to get a really, really good player at pick 20. So maybe, but Rutger McGrody or Brad Lambert and from the Jets, feeling pretty good about those. Both those guys were very, very high. I very much love Brad Lambert, probably more than a lot of other people. But if you could get Brad Lambert back, it's really high upside. He's kind of killing it over in the WHL. You can play. You kind of see what play him on the CUDA next year. Like you kind of have a little bit of a leeway with him as in his development, or if his development is not doing well, you can maybe trade him again in the future type of thing. So yes. So again, I didn't come up with any of these trades. You can go find them out there on the internet. So if you hate the trades, it's not my fault. I'm just a mouthpiece for the trades. Give you my thoughts on trade proposals by much smarter people than me. So be back tomorrow. We'll figure something out. Maybe a draft profile, maybe a CUDA, something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. So be back tomorrow. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at MyFryHole. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. And yeah, watch on YouTube as well. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.